Hey, welcome back to my channel, Soul Vibe CC. It is Celine Lizette here. And honestly, it's been such a long time since I've done a video. I've said that a few times in my past videos, but honestly, that's okay. I kind of come to a place where I just want to do videos when I'm feeling called to do one and really just speak authentically, speak from my heart. And today I actually felt called to do a video on healing from breakups and how I healed specifically from my breakup. I was in a relationship for about 2 years, even though we had talked, and it was honestly toxic from the start, but we had been talking and liking each other for 3 years. We broke up last May. It's been over a full year now, and for the first time in a really long time, like literally today, I felt extremely healed. And the reason that that even came into my mind is because my friend that I haven't spoke to in a while recently hit me up today, and she mentioned that she's going through a breakup and she's having a really hard time. She's feeling, in that black hole of like anxiety, and I know that feeling all too well. I've felt that feeling many times in my life, and it just made me feel for her, and it made me realize like how far I've come. And I've been feeling like I've been healed for a while, but because of that, and excuse me, I'm sick. But it's crazy that even though I'm sick and physically like not doing the best right now, or recovering, I'll say, I feel so good spiritually and emotionally and mentally. And because of that, that's why I feel inspired to do this video, especially after, giving some of my advice to her, my friend, and just realizing like how many people could use this advice. At the very least, I hope that you get something out of it, especially if you're feeling in a low, anxious place, or feeling like really heartbroken and like your world is crumbling down, all of those feelings from, a recent breakup. I hope you get something from this video. And at the very least, you'll know what I've done. And if you want to incorporate any of it, I hope you do. And I hope it helps you feel better. Also, excuse my sweating throughout, just because when I'm sick, well, I mean, I sweat naturally like a lot, but when I'm sick, I'm like detoxing a lot of stuff. And so, and I think it's also spiritually as well. Like, I don't know, I believe everything is energy and spiritual. And the fact that summer is literally starting this weekend, I feel like my healing journey, like I said, it's been over a year, but I feel like there's something symbolic about me just ending Gemini season. We're ending, I believe, in a few days, the 20th or the 21st. And then, which is my season, I'm a Gemini. And then we're moving into summer, and summer is my favorite season. So I feel like it's just, this is the last purge before entering the season where I'm about to come out of my hibernation, come out of my like dark healing era, even though I've been coming out of it for a while. But yeah, it's like right before summer. So again, feeling great, and I want you guys to feel great too. So that's really the purpose of this video. So to start and give a little background, I've talked about how I broke up with my ex in my past videos, if you guys have watched any of them. And I've done a lot in the process of, even being with him, being in a toxic relationship. And then before him as well, I started my healing journey because I've been in plenty of toxic situations. I haven't really been in that many healthy relationships. And then, yeah, like afterwards, I really needed a set plan for myself. And so that's what, I'm going to talk about. So to start out of the list of things that I've done that have really helped me heal from this breakup, and also just to break up in itself, because with my ex, we broke up so many times. Like I said, our relationship was never, I mean, I guess it could be considered toxic from the start. There was healthy moments, yes, and it wasn't always super toxic, but it definitely was not healthy. And I will say from the beginning, the relationship was like me chasing somebody, and that's pretty much what it was like. In the beginning, I would consider him my MGK phase, where he was emotionally unavailable to start, and I really wanted to be with this person, and I got what I wanted. And then from there, it just, it's not good when you're with somebody that is emotionally unavailable. But also, if you think about it, when you're, attracted to someone who is emotionally unavailable, that also means there's something within you that makes you emotionally unavailable, because we attract what we are. But anyways, nonetheless, that's how it started. And so we tried breaking up so many times. I can't even count the number of times that we actually, try to separate, and then we just always went back to each other. We couldn't let go, codependency, but also I think it's just like you don't want to let each other go because you truly want things to work out, yada yada yada. So the first thing I will say in this healing journey is, and this may be unpopular, but it is what helped me first and foremost, is my relationship with Jesus and with God, and really praying to Jesus in my lowest moments. And actually right before I broke up with my ex, or before I told him that I was no longer in love, which led to us breaking up like shortly after I said that, I prayed to Jesus and prayed to God because I knew that I could not do it without Jesus being by my side. Like literally, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to break up with him, because I had been getting intuitive hits for the longest time. Like, it's time for you to let go, like at least a month before. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to have the courage to do this, but I need you to be here throughout this journey with me. Like, I'm 100% putting my faith and myself in your hands. And so, yeah, that was the first thing I did. And that is what truly helped me stay broken up. Not to say that I didn't go back, or like that was the last time I saw him or spoke to him, because that's not true. And I'll talk about that, in some later points. But we did break up, and that was it. And along with that, like in my lowest moments of whenever I would feel sad, whenever I would feel like those times that you're in an anxious black hole, I would pray to Jesus, and other times I would actually journal, like just type on my laptop anytime I was feeling sad. But at the very least, just pray when you're feeling that way. And it would help. Like, I kid you not, I would get immediate relief. There's one instance that I can remember, and this was actually before me and my ex were together, but when I was in that chasing him phase, there was one specific time, sorry, that I was in such an anxious black hole. Like, I don't know what had happened. I mean, I had been intoxicated from going to a rave before. I bet that had a part to do with it, but I could not stop crying. And he had just told me that he didn't want to, be together, and I wanted to be together. A lot of stuff happened, but I was like devastated and just so anxious. I could not explain it. I don't think I've ever felt such bad anxiety. It's actually traumatic, because that's the most anxious moment. Like, I never want to feel that way again in my life. And I even had like my mom, because I was living at home at the time, I laid down with her. I had her cuddle with me. And, it was helpful to have someone there. And I never, ever, like, I'm not the type to be that vulnerable person, especially with like my mom. I'm very much, I sometimes I'm like that with my friends, but rarely do I like ask someone to sleep with me. And it's been a while since I've done that, since I was younger, type of thing. And so my mom slept with me, and then in the morning she got up and left, and as soon as she was leaving, it's like, oh, that anxiety came back, and I was crying again in the morning, and I was by myself. And I remember that was the first time that I ever felt immediate relief as soon as I prayed. And like, the only thing that could get me to stop crying was right after I prayed. And soon after, I heard like to go to yoga, which is something that I do like somewhat often. It's yoga on the bluff, actually, and it's free. And I remember I was like, go to yoga, like, okay. So I just got energy out of nowhere to put on clothes to go to yoga, and it was the most like healing yoga experience. It was this teacher who I absolutely love, but everything that he was saying was just, it resonated so much, and it really helped my soul. And I cried in the yoga session too, like to myself, I wasn't like bawling, but you can feel the energy of the other people who are there, and it's just like, it's such a sacred experience. But if I hadn't prayed, I think I would have just kept crying and crying and crying. Like, it was the only thing that brought me relief. So every time, even till this day, when I get doubts sometimes, or when I'm feeling low and sad, or like if I feel like Jesus isn't close to me, like, I think back to that time, and that is what proved to me that like Jesus is there. You just have to ask for his help, and that's really all he wants. And it truly does help. So anytime you're feeling low or sad, like, that's the first thing that you need to remember is going to, like, more than anybody else, more than therapy, more than yoga, more than any like spiritual practice, like, it comes back to your relationship. And getting that comfort from the source of comfort, like from our creator, you know? So that's the first thing. Moving on to the second thing that really like has helped me throughout my journey, even before being with my ex. Actually, I would say I started going to this in my first like depression state, which was in 2020. I think I've talked about it a little bit in other videos. But I started therapy, and I think therapy in general is great. I will say hypnotherapy has really changed my life. I started that in 2020 when I was going through depression, and that's like it was much more spiritual for me. Of course, it always depends on like what it's like any therapist that you go to, it has to be the right match. But I tried out different hypnotherapists. I found one that I really, actually, I have two. The first one that I found really, really helped. I did like a 6 session package, and you know, it is expensive, but the thing that I like to say is that it's an investment in yourself. And you know, if you have money to like party, if you have money to do different things, like you definitely have the money to invest on your own mental and emotional and spiritual health. And when you need it, you need it. And so I think, you know, if you're in a really dark place, like that should be your first and foremost, because partying is not going to, partying and going out with friends and all of that, that can help. But if you're using that as your main source to get through a breakup, like that's probably one of the worst things that you can do. But I'll get into that a little bit later, because I won't say like going out and you know, having time with friends, like I said, like that did help me as well. But hypnotherapy helped me so much more than that. And also regular therapy. So, you know, I understand hypnotherapy. The thing that sucks about that is that insurance doesn't help. And it is out of pocket most of the time. So, but like I said, it was truly such a great investment that I've done on myself. And I still go for maintenance all the time. But I just feel that hypnotherapy like really sped up the process for me, because it's subconscious and it's working with your subconscious, versus like therapy can sometimes just be talk, and it's very much like on the conscious realm, but that is helpful as well. And I'll say I actually decided to go to therapy right before breaking up with my ex in 2020. Wait, we're in 2025. So yeah, I broke up with my ex May 2024. And I had started going to therapy in November of 2023, because I was like, maybe I should not focus on such a spiritual type of therapy, but like a real life, like practical one. And she did help. She actually, like, I will say, significantly helped me with breaking up, because it helped me to see, just like on a unbiased perspective, like how unhappy that I was, especially since I started with her before breaking up with him. Just she helped me to realize like how unhappy I was throughout the process. She's like, Celine, ever since I've known you, since we started our therapy in November, anytime I ask you like, what's your mood? How are you feeling? Because that's how she would start off the session. She was like, you're always anxious. You're always like, you know, in an unhappy state. And that's part of the reason why I really needed to be out of that relationship with my ex, was because it caused me so much anxiety, even if it's not because of like a toxic relationship, although I believe those two go hand in hand. But like, if your soul knows that you're in a place that you're no longer supposed to be in, or simply that you've outgrown it, like you start feeling unpeaceful feelings, and you start, you know, like for me, I was so anxious, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But yeah, going to therapy helped me realize that. She helped me be realistic with the fact that I'm staying in this relationship now because it's comfort, because I'm scared of letting go, because of my irrational fears of like I'm never gonna have a relationship again, or just like, you know, different reasons that are reasons that a lot of people feel, and it's valid. But one, we can't always listen to the thoughts, the negative thoughts that we have. In fact, we should not be listening to the negative thoughts we have. And a therapist can help, you know, help you become more aware of those. And then that's not a reason to stay in a relationship. And looking back now, especially like I said, I feel healed now. I feel like, and it, I mean, I'm going to talk about like the ups and downs that I've gone through in this healing journey, since it's been over a year now, or slightly over a year. And it's just, I'm so glad and so proud of myself for actually sticking through with the breakup and going through this, because now, like, oh my God, I just can't explain to you the feeling of like, you like just picture yourself on the other side. And my therapist would tell me that she's like, you're right now straddling the fence of like, like, especially because we would break up a lot and then get back together and break up, get back together. She's like, you straddle the fence and then you let go, you go on the other side of the fence, but then you like run back to it. And she was like, you have to like stay off the fence, you know, because you can't keep you can't move forward if you keep going backwards. And yeah, there was just a lot of things that she did help with in practical terms that made it easier for me to actually stick with the breakup and you know, get to the point that I am now. So I think therapy, at the very least, regular therapy, there's so many different kinds, but researching, yelping is how I found my hypnotherapist, and you know, just doing as much research as you can. But I understand it can be overwhelming too, like, you know, to like just start therapy. Like I feel like that's what I had to force myself to do. And if you can make the investment on yourself, like financially with hypnotherapy or, you know, other types of therapy that are a little bit deeper than regular therapy, as long as you've done your research and you see like there's good reviews and you feel comfortable doing that, I would say just start. And you know, therapy is definitely a major tool that I've used to help me get to where I'm at. In addition to therapy, something else that I did was go on 2 spiritual retreats in the time from last year to now. I went on a Bali retreat, which I did a video. My most recent video that I did was on my Bali retreat. And then I actually went on another retreat in May, and that was with my hypnotherapist. Whereas my Bali retreat was with a Reiki healer. That's another thing that I'll mention. Reiki, I'm sorry, I'm jumping from topic to topic, but Reiki is also another thing, another, you know, like pricier, like around $200, same as hypnotherapy. But if you find a good Reiki healer, like spiritual practices along with therapy are something that really helped me. And that's like, because that's purposely healing for your spirit. And so I was very called to that, very drawn to that. And if like my friend who is in like kind of an anxious, like desperate state right now to get out of that anxiety, like those things helped me. And so I would say look into that as well. But anyways, back to the retreat. So my Reiki healer that I went to hosted the Bali retreat, and then my hypnotherapist hosted the recent retreat that I went on. It was like the equivalent of an ayahuasca retreat, and that's something that I've always been interested in doing, but this was actually better for me just because I don't want to go through with the ayahuasca retreat. It's like, it's very, I don't know, it just seems intense, whereas this was less intense. And we actually did something called Bufo, which is a type of DMT, which I believe ayahuasca is a type of DMT as well. But it was very therapeutic, very healing for me. And I honestly feel like I got what I was looking for. So yeah, so I would recommend, you know, if you can, going on a retreat, especially if you're in your like breakup and you're feeling a little lost, and you know, getting out of your comfort zone, like when you feel ready to. You know, I understand if you're not ready at this moment, if you're like obviously a breakup has different phases of healing, right? And at first is usually when people feel like the crummiest, or like the most anxious and just feel like they're lowest. So obviously, you know, you may not feel called to go on a retreat right now, but maybe down the line in a few months, I think that's a good experience. And traveling, all of that, whether it's local or not, because the most recent one that I went on was local. And yeah, like I just think that could be a great experience and also very good for healing. I definitely feel both were helpful for me. So moving on to the third thing, something that is a little, you know, a little less of a financial investment. And you know, this is going to go to what, or speak to what you should be doing now that you're broken up. Like you may have just lost your best friend or somebody that, you know, you were putting at the forefront of your life. Like that's definitely something that I did in my relationship. And I really was codependent on that person for a long time. And honestly, I stopped going to a lot of hobbies that I was going to, like my dance classes, all of that. And I, you know, that's the reason why a lot of people lose themselves in relationships. And then when they break up, they're like, oh my God, you know, I don't have anything anymore. Like I don't have my friends, blah, blah, blah. Luckily, I did have friends. I didn't, you know, I had friends that I had built in the more recent part of, like, I would say like 23, I can't speak right now. 2023 to 2024 is when I built new friendships. And because of that, I feel like that was one of the things that helped me to release the relationship. But even if you don't, like my friend, she actually has let go of a lot of her friends, and she said that she's feeling really like alone right now. And that's okay because I've been there before too. And that's where I started going to like therapy and stuff. But before I even started doing that, I actually spent a lot of time alone, and I learned to become comfortable with being alone. Like, go into nature. Nature is something that I absolutely adore. Like when I'm feeling low and just like crap, going into nature is the first thing that I want to do. And when you're in nature, there's so many things that you can do, like journaling. You can read. You can manifest journal. So there's two different types of journaling that I would do that would really help me. Usually, when I was feeling sad and like I wanted to cry and emotional and stuff, I would just write how I'm feeling. And like that's when I would say, like, my first point, I would write to Jesus or write to God, like, God, I'm feeling this way and it hurts, whatever, like whatever you want to say, that would help me. And it would usually help me release the emotions that I'm feeling. And that's important for healing. You need to like feel it to heal it. And then you release it and then you feel relief. That's what usually would happen when I would journal. So doing that on the beach or doing that like at a park where I'm kind of, not around too many people, like that would help my soul feel really good. Also, there's times where I would read and listen to, well, I would read or listen to self-help YouTube videos and podcasts. For example, a YouTube person that I would listen to a lot that actually helped me before I broke up with my ex, but helped me to realize the reasons why I wanted to break up with my ex. Like, this person isn't giving me what I need, or he's not like being the man that I need him to be, all of that stuff, was Stephan Speaks. So I recommend him. Also Matthew Hussy, that, he has a lot of YouTube videos that help with like coping with breakups and stuff like that. And also just, typing into YouTube, like how to get over a breakup. There were so many different videos that I watched that, I cried watching them and just listened to what they had to say, and just having like the comfort of someone else like having gone through the experience, because everybody's experience is different. Everybody has different points to give, although we have, some similar points to give. It all helps to like reassure you that you're not alone and that you will get through this, so that it's just a temporary time. So those things really, really helped me. And like, whether you listen to it at home or you go to the park, go to the beach, and have also, like, I just thought of this right now, but to have a microdose session, that's something that I think really helped me as well to release emotions. It may not be for everybody, but those healing times alone, especially like just the microdose part, I don't know. I know that's like a whole different point and topic altogether, but yes, like just being in nature is therapeutic, whatever you choose to do. But the self-help stuff, that is something that really helped me get through the breakup, like I said, just because yes, your friends can be there for you. Yes, your family can be there for you. And yes, a therapist can be there for you, but they can't be there for you all the time. And YouTube is there for you as much as you need it to be. So and there's just so much content out there. And, even if it's not on YouTube, like going on Spotify or listening to different podcasts, I'll list some of the different podcasts that I've listened to that have helped me, and also some of the books that helped me as well. Like that is free knowledge and almost like free therapy. Actually, one of the books that I did start reading once I broke up with my ex was How to Be Single and Happy. It's by Jennifer Tate, and I didn't even finish it, but I was reading, like I've read a good amount of it, almost halfway actually, on the beach. And yeah, like I said, like there's just, even if you don't finish all of the books or finish like all of the podcasts, whatever, you take bits and pieces from these different things, and all of it your brain and your soul absorb, and it really does help you get through. And that's how you become your own best friend. And that really is what it takes to heal, like to truly heal, not just from maybe this breakup, but all of your like past trauma and stuff, and just all of the breakups combined, like anything that you've gone through, like learning to become your own best friend and to mother yourself, to reparent yourself. Because if you're like me, you haven't had somebody who can truly like who's gonna hold your hand through everything, because that's just not realistic. Like not everybody has gone through the same situations that we have gone through. And sometimes it's just like really hard for people to relate, or even if they can, again, they can't be there for you all the time, and you shouldn't expect them to. Like, this is again between you and God and Jesus, and that's what's going to heal you at the end of the day. Like, Jesus and God, and then reparenting yourself and getting yourself through and being your best friend. Okay, point number 4. So in addition to spending time alone and, like being your own therapist, being your own best friend, new hobbies and going back to old hobbies, whatever it is that, brings you joy and brings you peace, that's really going to be a key in your healing journey. So, again, that's why I brought up reading in nature, or even actually microdosing, even though I consider that not a hobby, more of like a spiritual practice. But reading in nature, and sorry, I'm looking at my notes, and then just getting back out into the world and trying new things. Although I understand, like, if you're at the beginning stage of a breakup and, it's fresh, like, you're not going to have the energy or like the desire to go and do that. And that's totally normal. Something that Stephan speaks, the guy that I mentioned, as far as YouTube videos that I used to watch, he has a book. I think I downloaded it, or like a program, and it's called, like, honestly, I can't remember. I'll put it in the description below, but it's about healing after heartache, I believe. And so something that he said is, like, if you're fresh from a breakup, give yourself time to grieve. And he talks about like a wallowing period, and how he gave himself, or gives his patients, like, or gives his clients, sorry, not patients, like a week, or a certain time frame to really just, like, rot in bed, do what you need to do, be in that black hole if you need to be. For me, I did have my wallowing stage too, but I will say something that I want to point out, like, to keep in mind through your healing journey, is that I learned for myself, I'm the type of person who feels emotions like later. For some reason, and I've learned this, like, through this specific breakup. I feel like I wasn't aware enough through my other heartbreaks, but like now being more self-aware and being like older, more mature, wiser, I should say, not older, is that I'm numb at first, which is, I think, similar to what a lot of males feel. I feel like females, it reminds me of that meme, or like, yeah, that picture where they show, like, women have a different emotional healing experience, which is like, at first they're extremely heartbroken, and then by the end of, like, I don't know, a year or something like that, they're feeling amazing. Whereas guys are the opposite. They are feeling like they go out and party at first, they're like, oh, I'm fine, and then by the end of the year they're like crying, and they, like, it's like flipped. And I'm not saying that I'm like that. I'm saying that, and like, if you are like that, that's fine too. I would say it's the approach of being less emotionally, I don't want to say emotionally mature, but like, you're not doing the right things to really help yourself heal. But nonetheless, for me, I was ready to heal. Like, I don't know, I feel like my emotions just went up and down constantly. And at first I was very numb. Even though I was sad, it was like a shallow sadness. And then I was going out, I think because I didn't want to feel the sadness, which is what, a lot of people do, and why they go out and party and distract themselves. And even going to the gym and stuff, it's like, you're trying not to feel the deeper emotions. But even, and that's totally, I think, normal for some people. But as time goes on, that's when you start to feel the deeper emotions. And like, so months later, I was like, wait, what the hell? Why do I feel like so shitty now, when before it's almost like I was judging myself? Like, I was feeling higher after I broke up with my ex, like at a higher level, and like, oh, I was happy, I was proud of myself, and I was going out after the initial sadness. Of course, like, at first there was that anxiety and like, oh my God, what did I do? But once I got through that part, then I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm free, I'm gonna go out, and I was going out a lot. And then later I was like, I'm feeling bad after I go out. Like, it stopped being fun, and I would go home and I would feel just like empty and worried, like those negative thoughts of like, oh my God, the dating pool is terrible out here, like, I'm never gonna find someone. Those things started coming up again, and I was like, oh no, was I wrong for breaking up with this person? And it's so important to be aware of this and know that this is just your negative, like, talk, and the negative stories that your ego is telling yourself that aren't, like, it's not true. And maybe there are some cases for people who are like, oh crap, I broke up with this person and I shouldn't have. But that's where it really goes back to remembering, like, if you did go to therapy, which in my case I did, and I wrote down the reasons of why I broke up with this person. And I knew for the longest time, like, I had fallen out of love, that too much stuff had happened. It was too toxic, that stuff had sat with me. And it's normal that I couldn't, like, yes, I could have stayed and tried to forgive, which I did for the longest time. But if you can't forgive, you can't forgive. And you shouldn't try to force that. Like, you need to know when to let go, right? And that's what I did. And just because I'm feeling low and sad and like, oh, these negative thoughts, like, I couldn't let them win, and I didn't let them win. And there were times that I did call my ex, not gonna lie, but I still was shown after the times. And that's why I say, like, I think I mentioned that I was gonna talk about this throughout the video. I'm sorry, I'm fucking sweating, it's so hot. But it's important to know that healing isn't linear. It is, my hypnotherapist told me this, it is a spiral upward. So there's gonna be times where you feel like you're falling back, but you're still gonna move forward. You're still gonna move upward. And yes, that's why in my healing journey, I did go back. Not giving that a reason or trying to give you an excuse for like, oh, it's okay to go back to your ex. But we called each other. Well, mostly it was me calling him, actually. And crazy enough, I was the one that like wanted to let go of the relationship. But I called because it was my comfort, and I did feel that comfort. But nonetheless, like, in the times that we did hang out, even after being broken up, I still had that feeling of like, no, this is not the person that I'm going to be with. Like, I wish I could explain that better. In the times that we hung out, intuitively, I knew that even though this was comforting and it was nice, like, it's okay to miss the person. And I think that's what I didn't realize until longer, way after like spiritual retreats and stuff, like farther down in the journey, is when I realized that it is okay to be sad, and it is okay to miss the person even later on, and like, even if it's been years later, because you shared something special with that person. And even if it was toxic, whatever, like, do not dismiss the fact that you truly cared for this person. You had love for this person. There was special, beautiful moments with this person, and it's okay to look back and to miss that and be sad over it. But it is not the reason, and it is not a reason that you should go back to this person. Because now how I'm feeling, I'm like, I'm glad I'm not with that person. I know in my heart that that's not my person. And although, I get sad and lonely, or like again, I was thinking thoughts like, oh my God, am I ever going to find someone? I know I am. I know that was just my ego and my negative story that you have to change the narrative, that you have to change in your mind. And once you do, like, the truth. And the truth is, you broke up with this person for a reason. Or if it wasn't you breaking up with them and they broke up with you, like, they didn't see your value. And that, I've been in that position as well too. And like I said, as well too, I've been in that position as well. And when I think back to that person, like, if they ever came back, now looking back, I'm like, I'm totally healed from that person. And I am so glad that I never went back to that person, because that person treated me like crap. Like, that person was a narcissist. It was someone that I was never in a relationship with, and he messed me up really bad, to say the least. But yeah, the reason I bring that up is because, like, I know what it's like to be in that position too. And you should never go back to that if it's something like that, because, you deserve to be valued. You deserve to know your worth, and to be with someone who knows your worth as well, and treats you how you deserve to be treated. And so that's why you should not go back, right? In my case, I wanted to end the relationship because I felt that I wasn't valued properly when I was in that relationship, and that's why I ended it. But it's still, there's going to be times where it hurts, and where you're scared and you're feeling alone. And that's why, the other things that I mentioned, when you're going through that, to pray to God, to pray to Jesus, and to do your best to not go back. And even if you go back, which is, be easy on yourself, but to know that that does not mean you should get back with the person. And if you do go back, that makes it, it's a very slippery slope. And that can open the door for you just constantly going back and getting back in like a toxic cycle, which is what I did with not my most recent ex, but the toxic situationship that I could not get over for like 5 years. So that was a long tangent. That was a super long tangent, but I think it was important. I know I wanted to say those points in this video, even if it wasn't in the order that I expected. But again, new hobbies, getting out of your comfort zone when you have the energy to do so, when you have that, that desire to go back out into the world and stuff, new hobbies will be your best friend. And that's also where you can meet new friends if you're at a place where you feel like you don't really have friends, because I've been in that position too. Like I said, after my toxic situationship, like in 2020, that's when I really was alone, or really didn't have that many close friends. And through new hobbies, you can meet new friends, you can meet new community, and connect with new people. But first and foremost, it's about you getting getting out of your comfort zone and getting back into the world. Like, stepping into that main character energy is going to help you remember who the F you are and to help you heal from the breakup. But whether or not that's, right after or later down the line, everybody's different, and you can do it at your own pace. Also, the last thing I want to say about the hobbies is just like, do what your soul truly like feels called to do. And one of the things that my soul had felt really called to do back in 2020 was like start pole dancing classes and like go to different dance classes. And even though it was hard, like it was such a journey with all of that. But I have a pole right now. Like, I don't do it as often. My soul doesn't feel as called to do it anymore. Although I do want to get back, because dancing is good for the soul. It's good for healing. So, just like whatever your soul is feeling called to do. More recently, an example is like, I've been feeling called to volunteer at this cat shelter. So like, animals are healing too. So there's a reason that you have an inkling to do something. Another thing that I want to do is like horseback riding. I'm feeling very called to like be around certain animals. So yeah, start doing that. Even going again out for walks in nature, like all of this stuff will be really good for your mind and for your soul and for emotional healing. So keep that in mind when it comes to new hobbies. The next thing I'll say is gym. Obviously, there's a lot of people that talk about going to the gym and how healing and therapeutic that can be. I've talked about going to the gym and how it's good for like my mental health, for the anxiety, emotionally, and then also for your, for your physical body. So I think the gym is a really good place and a good hobby to get into once again you have the energy after wallowing and after that initial state, if you are feeling very anxious and just like you don't want to do anything. But the sooner that you can force yourself to get out and go into nature, or to like walk, engage in healthy hobbies, and go to the gym, the sooner you can do that, the better that you'll start to feel. The last thing that I'll mention that really helped me through the breakup and through the healing process is friends and family. And the reason that I say this last is because I know what it's like to heal without having friends and family being there, or like when you feel like you're alone. And I don't want you guys to be scared of feeling alone, because that's going to be normal whether or not you have friends and family there for you or if you don't. And I know because I've done both. And in this case, I did have friends and family. And again, going back to that point of like, the sooner that you can, get yourself back out there into the world, or if you are looking for friends, I don't know, something that I've tried before is Bumble BFF. And that worked. Like when I was in my depression stage in 2020 and then started healing, I did find new friends on Bumble. And yeah, just there's different ways to connect with people, but don't expect that to be like your main healing source. But anyways, okay, so in this chapter of my breakup and healing, I did have friends and family, and that's important too. The reason that I wanted to say that is because I think because of how I had done things before without having friends and family, that it was kind of my natural tendency to want to isolate in this era. And actually one of the videos that I had just done was like isolating for my level up. I think there's a healthy balance to that, and it's also important to connect with friends or with family, because like we need that connection. And friends, like going out with friends did help me. However, for like the example of my friend who's going through a hard time right now and her breakup, she doesn't want to go out because she tends to do what a lot of people do, which is like spiral and overdrink and like almost use the going out as an escape tendency, and then that can lead down a very negative road. And for me, I don't do that, and I'm the opposite where I tend to isolate more so. But in this case, I did go out with friends and I would drink and party, and like I said, it's a balance because there were times that I would go out and have fun, but then there's other times that I would come home and like I said, I would feel like crap, especially after drinking, because drinking can make you feel very negative, at least it does for me. So it's like you really have to be cautious with that. If you are going out and drinking. However, if you're going out and you're going to the beach with friends, or you're like just having that friend quality time without partying, that is obviously a healthier way to do things. But for me and my friends party a lot, so, and like it did help because there was times like getting ready that would help me feel good, and then just going out and being in the world, dancing, like there are healthy aspects to going out. But then, like I said, there's times like where I would just be like, ugh, the dating pool is crap. Like if I'm going out and looking for someone to fill that void in me, like that's where it can be negative, right? But nonetheless, I will say friendships, like reaching out to friends when you can, but not becoming codependent on them, not expecting them to always be there, like to be your therapist and stuff like that. But don't feel, there's times where I did reach out to my friends and I would be like, I would say like, oh, I'm missing my ex right now. um and then they would help me remember, but sometimes like it wouldn't always help. Like it would really come back down to thinking of the reasons why we broke up, journaling on my own, talking to God. Like I said, that's why I listed that as number one, is like your relationship with Jesus and God, and help. I mean, asking them for help throughout your breakup is really like my first and foremost thing. But when it comes to family and friends, do try to connect with people. Try to go out, whatever that means for you, and be healthy with those, and keep up the friendships and build new friendships, because if you don't have those friends, new friends will come along. It's important that you don't feel alone. You're not going to be alone forever if you are feeling alone. And even if you did have friends, like I said, there were times that I felt alone a lot throughout the healing process. But now I'm feeling like that's what is going to propel you to be that empowered version of yourself, that healed version of yourself, because you're going to get yourself through those alone moments. And remember that you are your own best friend first. You are, your mother or father, if you don't feel like if you didn't have the parent that you needed, like all of that. That is where your inner power comes in. And now I feel like I'm on the other side. I can, this is the first time that I'm feeling like I'm ready to be open with the world. Like at raves, for example, I was feeling very closed off up until this point. Like not all the time, but a lot of the time I would go out and I would be like, damn, like my friends are so open with people, and they're like so how I used to be, which is, high vibrational, very much like spreading love and all of that. And now like it would make me compare myself, and it would make me feel down on myself, because I wasn't at that level. I'm healing from a breakup, and that's so important to remember on your journey. Like be easy with yourself, be patient with yourself, be compassionate with yourself. Again, you are like, this is a time for you to mother yourself, father yourself, and be your own best friend. And if you are just not at that level of where you can be open with people, like don't judge yourself, because that's what I would do. I would be like, oh my God, I'm never going to be like my old self. I'm just going to be this closed off, like unconfident person. And no, like you're going through a healing period in your life, and it's just going to be a season. It's just going to be a chapter. And that's like the main thing that I can remind you, or like if I can offer you any words of comfort, is just that it is temporary. And coming from someone who's on the other side, like I literally just felt this today, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm healed. I saw my ex recently at a show, and like it felt so good to be like, oh my God, I don't need to reach out to him. I feel like I understand now why I didn't go back to that. And although there are still moments where I'm like, damn, I miss having someone, or, it'd be nice to be in a relationship, it doesn't, like, it's not like earth shattering. It's not heart shattering anymore because I've healed, and you will too. Like, you just have to give yourself time and do all these things that I mentioned. Sorry, I know this video was all over the place. Like, I don't know. I'm sick. I have fuzzy brain, but nonetheless, I feel great. I feel healed, and I want you guys to know that you will get to this place too. Maybe even quicker than a year. Like, that's how long it took me, again, because I am a Gemini. I don't know. I feel my emotions later and at random times. Like, my healing is up and down. And I believe, a lot of people will be like that too, where some people are just like down at first and then they go up from there on out. Whatever your journey is, just know that you will get to this point that I'm at. And I wish you so much love and healing and light, and you will get through this, my friends. So thanks for watching.